Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is currently October 27th, and my name is Day 9, and this is where you learn to be a better gamer. I'm so excited to tell you this. We just took a look a little bit at Landos and his MVP attempts. Let's go ahead, pop back into the game. We saw in the opening, basically over-aggressive in some parts, under-aggressive in others. Over-aggressive with the bunker rush, losing a little bit too much there. Under-aggressive with the remainder of his Hellions. Again, because we want to... Where is it? There it is. Yeah, we want to try to do damage. We want to try to take many opportunities to be aggressive, but don't commit. I don't think we took enough opportunities as Landos. And now, it looks like he did some of these drops that were very much so in the spirit of MVP. Ended up losing some stuff. But it all pretty much went as expected, as planned. And now we see Landos is preparing to do this giganto scary push. And he forgot siege mode. There it is, going down. This push is really intimidatingly gigantic. And here is where I think is an easy moment to sort of mess up. Is this moment right here where we see Landos move forward. He does the scan, everything's looking so good. He sees, oh, an army that he can easily thwart. SCVs march in, and Landos actually pulls back at this point in time. He actually ends up retreating. Part of me is just like, well, you know, you forgot siege mode. I completely understand that. That happens. But, you know, even in a standing fight, this should win with siege mode by a significant margin, by a huge amount. So I probably would have just kind of stuck out and engaged there. And with this composition that Landos has, it's very, very easy to underestimate the strength of your standing army. This many siege tanks this early is absurd. This is actually stupid how many siege tanks you have at this moment in time. This should outright crush at this point in time. Now, meanwhile, back home, notice that we're seeing Landos, his macro, or his money is quite low. It's 500, 800. I mean, that 800 is a little bit high, but I think that we may have just gotten Geyser number 4 too early. But, I mean, we're getting double engineering bays. We have 7 barracks, 3 with reactor. Excuse me. These 3. No. There we go. These 3. We have some tech lab barracks back here. We're starting to freestyle it a little bit. This is just too much stuff on these 2 bases. I would try to get less and try to macro a little bit better. But you know what? Until your macro gets better, it's okay to have a few too many unit producing structures. It's always better to keep your money low. It's always better to keep your money low than it is to just try to make sure you have the right number of buildings. But still, we want to have that as an eventual goal. So I'm sure a lot of you are puking in the way I am. That's painful to see. Here's one of these critical moments where you want to take opportunities to be aggressive, but in this, take many opportunities to be aggressive, but don't commit. You have to make sure you're not trying to do a lot of damage, you're trying to take no damage. The most common thing that people do when they're thinking, gotta kill him, gotta kill him, gotta kill him, is they rush up to here to try to siege. They're trying to get here before they siege up. Start sieging like right when you get to creep, because this will help you take no damage. This will help you take no damage. Landos should be sieging up right now, largely because he scanned and saw that they were units. If you try to be over-aggressive, this shit happens. Oh, and he only has 1 medevac. This poor medevac. This poor frickin' medevac. Now siege up, Landos. Siege up. Siege him up, Landos. Landos. Oh, God, Landos. Oh, that's so painful to witness. And still, Landos is actually going to be kind of fine because he has so ridiculously many siege tanks. And then he unsieges. And again, I can understand this because what I said a lot yesterday was to, again, take no damage, pull back, feel comfortable pulling back, feel more than so at ease just walking back home and not really worrying about the fact that we didn't try to do momentous damage, blah, 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 blah. But this is I think one of the hardest things to time properly. I straight up told you, retreat more. Pull back more. But still, come back and rewatch all the moments when you pulled back and say, what should I have continued to engage or not? If we come to that unit station, we see that there are 5 infestors with no energy, and that's it, and we're retreating. Looks like that judgment call was off a little bit. Again, this is not as bad as one might think. The important thing is that Landos actually is retreating. This was actually happy for me to see him retreat, because almost always, straight up into the highest levels of Grandmaster, you will see players who make an attack, start going, and never once does retreat ever occur in their minds once. They're like, well, I made units, time to attack, and I'm going to attack, and that's all there is to it, and there I go, alright, cool. But Landos is pulling back. Even though he could have continued to press forward, the fact that he's pulling back for these reinforcements means his follow-up push is going to be way stronger. So now, because I want to hop into this Naniwa game, let's start going at warp speed through this match. As quickly as we can. Might even lag for some of your systems to see things just moving so quickly at such blurry paces. So Landos not being quite as aggressive as we'd want him to be. Direct, straight-on engagements is what you should be about. Drops are great, and what we said was, if your opponent doesn't have Mutalisk, go ahead and go for drops, but we want to be trying to push forward on this direct engagement front. Landos has had a way bigger army this entire game. He's starting to inch his way forward. Look at how carefully and cautiously he's advancing. I'd like to see it go faster, but I still like that he's trying to take no damage. He's being as cautious as he can. Needs to begin pushing more aggressively. Let's see how this first engagement ends up going. Still looking quite a bit passive. And you want these big, gigantic pushing engagements to really freak your opponent out. At this point in time, Flenser has plenty of opportunity to do counterattacks, to take these Zerglings and wander it towards this base. And Landos really should be starting to bring that noise a lot harder and making Flenser think to himself, oh god, oh this is terrible. I mean, the fact that this could happen is going to really sting. Just a little bit too passive. Feel free to get in his face a little bit more. Some counterattacks getting in the way. Notice how all this is really passive, but oh, now he's starting to go for the base trade. Look at how ridiculously badly Landos is crushing this. Landos, going for the base trade, looking good. Having a little bit of trouble managing all of this, but he ends up dealing with it quite well. And Landos, what we'll see throughout this game, and for the remainder of the game, is just playing a little bit too slow in general. And this, I think, can be a real struggle when you're going for the direct confrontation force. Many people will do things like drop them here, drop them there, maybe do some Warp Gate harass, maybe do some Mutalisk harass, hit him here, hit him there, and then in one big crushing final attack, they end up winning. This is not how the MVP style works. You move up to his front with a bunch of stuff, and you start wailing, and you keep wailing, and you wail away until he's finally dead. And here we see Landos has actually been in control this whole game. He's really kind of crushing. Sure, there's a lot of Banelings here, but look at that food differential. Look at the drone count from Flenser. It's literally 7. Landos is doing great. And the funny thing is that in this game, or in the replay submission, I think that's all we're going to watch for now. In the replay submission, Landos said to himself, or said to, to me, because he emailed me, he said, yeah, you know, I ended up going for a base race at this point. I really felt like, you know, I kind of had to at that point in time, so I just went for the base trade and ended up barely coming out on top. That's kind of inaccurate. You took some damage back at home in your base, and then you freaking crushed him. It was not close at all. It was murderous. You violated him, right? It was great for you. But it's very easy to sort of feel that looking back when you're not really used to that style. So great, we've gotten a chance yesterday to look at MVP style. We did a review of that little intro bit of what our good friend I keep wanting to call him Lansor, but that's a mix between Flenser and Landor. We got a chance to see him, and now we're going to introduce a new style of Naniwa's PvZ. We're going to look at his amazing awesomeness, and again, once we review this, I want you to submit to me in the next few days you trying attempt to do Naniwa's style. You trying this attempt Naniwa's style of PvZ on Shakuras. I would be delighted if you submitted to me a game of you doing this. Submit it to Tuesday at day9.tv and give me some thoughts about it. So cool. We're going to see a very interesting PvZ opening from Naniwa on Shakura's Plateau. The thing that a lot of Protoss players struggle with on this map is the fact that the Zerg player can take this base really easily, his natural, obviously, but then also this third really easily. And then when Zerg locks down these two watchtowers with his initial set of lings, there's nothing to really halt our Zerg player from getting a ridiculous amount of roaches and just crushing us. It's the way this matchup usually plays out on this map. We're going to see Naniwa, though, do something very cool, very clever. So first we're going to see Sen open up with his usual pool first. Naniwa patrols away, trying to make sure that he can block the opponent's play. Naniwa builds his forge first in case there's any crazy early poolage, but once he sees that there is no crazy early poolage, he simply will be blocking his opponent's natural, taking the Nexus himself, and building that cannon for defense. Nothing too out of the ordinary. So I would say Naniwa, let's take a brief note, opens with Fast Forge Expo Standard. This is very basic on this map, largely because we can just block off the entrance so easily. And he builds pylons appropriately. Don't overthink this, damn it. Just build your probes and pylons. Sen, getting ready to get some Zerglings out across the map. 4 Zerglings up, spreads out to these watchtowers. And now commences yucky time for our Protoss hero. What can he do? He has very little vision. He's trying to poke up here. A Zergling catches him because Sen has control of the watchtowers. Poor Naniwa. Nani wants to get more information, but he can't. So up to this point in time, we're going to see Naniwa play a very, very typical opening. He'll be expanding. He'll be chrono boosting his probes. Here's a big thing to emphasize. A lot of chrono boosts on probes. A lot of chrono on probes, yeah. And what we see him do is, as his core is building, he gets kind of a fast +1. Kind of fast +1 attack with no chrono on it. We're actually going to see that this forge is almost never chrono boosted, ever. Chrono instead being spent on the probes. On the probes. Look at that, no chrono boost. We get one zealot out, but where is he? Well, he's blocking the front. He's actually going to move out in a little bit. And when I see this mixture, when I see some zealot and some sentry, I see some space for an exit, I see warp gate coming up, and I see +1 attack coming up. In my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, he's going to be going for like a 4-5 warp gate push. 4-5 warp gate push with some +1 seems good. Everything's normal. And this is where Naniwa does something that kind of surprises me a little bit and excites me. There's one chrono boost on that, finally. Look at that. A fast robotics facility. And this surprised me a lot. I was thinking to myself, well, maybe he's going for fast warp prism play. Maybe he's going for really fast observers, but I would hate that. Why would you set up to do some big aggression with warp gates and +1 attack, and then get an observer to find out what he's doing? Didn't really seem to make sense to me. Still no geysers, 3 and 4. And then we see Naniwa add on a whole bunch of gateways. What we're actually going to see Naniwa do is get out 2 Immortals really, really quickly. Now, I want to take a brief break from looking at Naniwa's play, and I want to come over to Camp Sen. This formation, these 3 bases, the Queens actively adding larva, the Roach Warren and the Evolution Chamber popping up, the layer, the speed. This is almost exactly the skeleton that every Zerg uses on this map. Almost exactly. So, what is it that makes this so difficult for a Protoss player to deal with? Well, what makes it so difficult is that if I move out with a small number of forces, you overrun me with a bunch of speed Zerglings. Well, what if I wait till I have a bunch of gateways and a huge army? Well, the roaches kill me, and my Zerg player has speed. And now all of a sudden I'm up against a maxed Zerg army on all roaches. I have like 110 food as Protoss, and I still don't have my third up. Oh, this stinks. It's a really grody spot to be in. But what we're going to see Naniwa do is he's going to be cleverly getting himself a lot of Immortals quickly. He's going to be chrono boosting that out, and following it up with some Warp Gates. So the last thing we're going to add is, after he does his kind of fast +1 attack, Robo, add 3 gateways. Build Immortals with Chrono. So again, very standard, fast forge. A lot of Chrono Boost on probes, getting +1 attack, and then this is the big key, so much so that I'm even going to put some extra dashes, some stars here. Robo, and then adding 3 gateways, and then building Immortals with Chrono Boost. This is going to set Naniwa up very, very nicely. When we hop into part 3, we're going to wrap this game up, see those transitions that Naniwa does, and then we're going to take some questions on Naniwa's style, so that way you guys can rush out into the future feeling prepped and equipped and happy and ready to go and be like Naniwa. Wow. Alright, don't go anywhere. More day-night daily action coming up. Coming up.